Good afternoon, folks. Welcome to the Tactical Dad podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Cook, and I am the Tactical Dad. Today we're going to go more into red dot sights, as I've done some more research, I've done some more learning and looking things up, I've spoken to a few more people. So we're going to dive more into red dot sights. And what I found is that red dot sight is more of a generalized term, because sometimes the dot's not red. Could be green or even a different color. Sometimes it's not a dot, the reticle's different. So yeah, some red dot sight might not actually be red and it might not be a dot. So it's a more general term, but anyone in the industry, when you say that, they're going to know what you're talking about, is what I've found. So when you go into it, you find that all reflex sights are red dot sights, but not all red dot sights are reflex sights. So like there's two different structurally made differences in these optics, and reflex and holographic. We're not going to get too much into holographic. We're going to get more into reflex. And the reflex, because of the construction, very simple actually, very simple construction, so that's why they last forever. Everywhere you read, no matter who you talk to, they'll all tell you that they last forever. And so the battery life, I think on average for red dots is like 50,000 hours or something. It's wild. So last forever, simple in design and construct. But I thought that was interesting. All reflex sights are red dot sights, but not all red dot sights are reflex sights. I thought that was interesting. So as we get more into it, there are, now knowing that red dot sight is more of a generalized term, that means there's several different types of red dot sights, since it's such a broad category. So you've got prism sights, holographic sights, and reflex sights. They're all of those are different types of red dot sights. So, and obviously from that you just know it must be a generalized term. So let's go first into reflex sights, because a reflex sight is one of three main types of red dot sights. The reflex sight, this type of sight, it's named that because of how it works. The light is projected from the rear of the scope to the front lens, which then reflects back as a red dot for you to aim with. So simple. If you actually Google just reflex sight and see a diagram of it, it's real simple. It's just like two beams. So it's reflex, it's reflecting back to you from the lens. So that's why it's called a reflex. So pretty simple. Whereas, I'm not going to go into it too much, but holographic, you look at a graphic view of how a holographic sight's made, there are lines everywhere. So much more complex, which is generally why they're more expensive, which is also why I lean towards a reflex sight, because they're cheaper. So let's go more into it. So there's an exposed reflex sight as well that has a single lens that's positioned at the front of the scope. So these are, I've heard the term open reflex sight. Open, exposed, kind of the same thing. So you look at, when someone says exposed sight or an open sight, they're talking about the same thing. And it's a lens that's positioned at the front of the scope, and the lens reflects back the dot that you see. So the benefit of all of these, the benefit of the reflex sights and open sights is that so the benefit of an open sight and the exposed reflex sights is that super wide open. So there's no eye relief. It's super wide open. You can see from your perspective, you can see a lot more things going on. So you get a fuller, more broader range of context. And so it'll help you and allow you to point and aim better. So it'll help you get on target. Your target acquisition will be much faster with these than say a tube style red dot, because that narrows your peripheral view. It's a little harder to get on target. However, still super fast, but if we're comparing those two, one's going to be a little quicker than the other. Reflex sights, I just mentioned this actually, they tend to be cheaper. I've got notes in front of me here, so I'm following my notes, but they tend to be a little cheaper. Sometimes I go go off on little tandems. But then we get into prism sights. I don't know too much about prism sights actually, because I don't have one. We don't make one, so I've not gone down that rabbit hole too much. But they have a standard tube style design, but they use prisms instead of multiple lenses to focus the image. So this is how they achieve such small sizes. I mean, I've seen them, I just don't know like the internal workings of one. I've not played around with one too much. I just know, just from looking at them, they look super small. So there's lower levels of magnification to match that size, and little slower in acquiring the target. So like, that's the drawback of something so small. You've got to be very close up to this type of sight if you want to get a very clear picture. So that's why I'm not too keen on that. Holographic sights, like I said, if you just Google how one's constructed, there's lines everywhere. So they're more expensive because they're more complex. But the sight, this type of sight, uses a laser and a series of mirrors, and that provides you the red dot, which is the aiming point. Those things can get up to hundreds of dollars, hundreds. So though, we'll conclude. How long has this gone on for? 6 minutes. Oh shoot. So what's the difference of all of these? So they're all reflex sights are red dot sights. Not all red dot sights are reflex sights, and surprisingly, not all red dot sights are even red dot sights. So red dot is very generalized. That's the conclusion I get from this. Is that red dots is just a very generalized term, and there's way more to it than that. You might get green dots, different color. You might have red or green or some other different colors. You might have a dot, or you might even have like crosshair sights or something like that. Reflex sights are a tube. Reflex sights can be in a tube, like a tube style reflex sight, or they can be open, stroke exposed. But reflex sights are a type of red dot sight that make it very easy to acquire the target and allow you to aim with both eyes open because of the eye relief, like the lack thereof. They're exposed and tube style reflex sights that are available. That's another one of my notes, but open and exposed, same thing. I've heard both terms. So, and then when I look at them and dive in deep into them, they're the same thing, just different words. And there's also two other types of red dot sights to choose from, which are the prism sights and holographic sights. Holographics are more expensive, prisms are smaller, which is the drawbacks of them. But yeah, all in all, like, to conclude the whole thing, red dots as a category, they're for close to medium distance, like pretty close up distance, more so than medium. Definitely not long, and they're just there to help you get on target quicker. They're there to help you acquire the target faster, and that's it. Very simple purpose. And so for that alone, that's why I lean towards a very simple design and construct, which is why I choose a reflex sight. But that's it. I'm gonna surely, no doubt, learn way more about sights and optics, so I'm going to keep sharing, but I thought this was good to sort of cover red dots and make you aware that it's basically just one big category of lots of things, and it's a generalized term. That's all from me today. Thanks for joining me. We'll talk about optics and scopes again in the future. Bye.